welcome everyone. Welcome to this very incredible panel discussion with two experts on the topic working or making money through language. So let's start maybe with a short presentation. I would say ladies first, if that's okay for you, Stefano.
Of course.
Okay, Elisa.
Hello everyone, thank you for being here. My name is Elisa. I'm a professional language teacher, language coach, and author of language courses. I've studied more than 25 languages, and I've written the book How to Become Fluent in Multiple Languages. And so I'm co-creator of a course called Self-Mastery Language Learning. And apart from the courses I teach online, and I teach languages through my YouTube channels, and I'm a business owner because I create language courses that enable people to speak their target language from the very first day. Hello, everyone.
Okay, Stefano, it's your turn. Thank you so much, Elisa.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me on this panel. I'm really happy and honored. Didi Madloba Motsuevis Twist. Thank you for your invitation in Georgian. No worries, I won't continue in Georgian because it's not enough to. My Georgian is not enough to actually do the full introduction. So, my name is Stefano. I'm from Milan, Italy. Live currently in Brussels, in Belgium. Some of you guys in the language learning community may know me because of my YouTube channel, Lingua e Passione, that's language and passion. That's a channel where I share my pretty obvious passion for foreign languages by making videos about several languages in several languages and sharing my best tips on language learning in general, as well as interviews and fun videos, etc. But that is not my main activity. By no means. It's actually just something recreational that I do there. What I do for a living is, I work on 3 separate strands. I'm a professional freelance translator, an online language tutor, and a language consultant / creator of materials for already existing language schools and businesses. And that's it for the introduction. I guess we are going to delve deeper into these topics later on, so I'll stop here.
Thank you so much to the two of you. Okay, I just wanted to say to those who are watching, feel free to write in the comments questions or anything that you would like to tell our two panelists. Feel free to do that in the comment section. Okay, so I know that the two of you, let's start this way first, because a lot of people might think about, oh, how can language is my passion, as it is the case for you, Stefano, but how can I actually make a living with language? And then some of us might have heard maybe also the sentence from, I don't know, parents or friends even, what, you study languages? How are you ever going to make any money with that, right? So I just wanted to ask you, first of all, before asking you about your opinions, could you maybe give us the examples? You've already told us what you're doing right now, but I know that you also had different jobs and related to language. So could you maybe share us also the jobs that you had in the past? And yeah, that were real jobs, so you could actually live from that. Who would like to start? Maybe this time, Stefano?
All right, I can start. It's very easy. In my case, I've been lucky and I've always worked only with languages. So I studied as a translator and I've translated for about 20 years. So I've been a freelance translator for 20 years. Luckily, not always doing the same thing. I need some variety in my work. So I've been translating literature, manuals, in websites, everything really. So much so that it never I was never, it was never the same thing. So it was never boring until about like 3 or 4 years ago when I decided to change it up and started teaching and then also working with other existing businesses. So in my case, it's always been language because the profession of translator was my big dream when I was younger. So I've been lucky enough to do that. Sorry?
Sorry, is that what you had studied as well, Stefano? Translator? To be a
Is that
translator?
what?
Is that what you had studied as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I decided when I was 15 when I decided what I would become. And then I did it. And it worked out. It worked out. I was lucky. I know I was lucky.
You rock. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that. Elisa, your case, I guess, is a bit different because I know that you've been also a little bit all over the world doing different things. What were your jobs that were somehow language related?
So, what I can say, I also studied translation and interpreting, and my dream was to become an interpreter. And this is what I've done for a while, simultaneous and consecutive interpreter. I like translation, but not that much compared to interpreting. And the first job I've done was to work as a translator and interpreter for a company that produced high vacuum furnaces. So I was translating all the technical manuals, and I was the interpreter at their job fairs or at their meetings, and I was helping translating legal documents. So it was very nice because I also had to learn the technical part, which I enjoyed it very much. And but apart from that, I also studied communication in international organizations. So I also studied within that degree. I also studied economics, IT, what else? Law. So, and I worked in the logistics for 3 years in Italy and also in Germany. And I loved it because I had to use 6 languages every day. And I worked, I didn't work like with an external customer support. I worked more with, let's say, our customers were our branches abroad. So it was better than less stressing than working for 1,000 different customers, but at the same time, very challenging and very interesting. So I learned a lot about logistics, containers, shipment, and anything like that. And in general, I think that people, when they learn about, or when they want to work with language, I think there are infinity possibilities because so there are so many companies who need people who can speak other languages. So it's not only teaching, it's not, so just to go back, and I've been teaching for 20 years. So even though when I was working for those companies, since my passion is teaching, I was teaching on the side, and then I made it my own, let's say, and then I made it like a big part of my working life. Yeah, so there are so many options. So you can work in travel and tourism in different areas. In communication, you also need languages. Nowadays, even more with all the global international websites. Translating is not only translation, but also localization. And Richard could tell us that it's also about moderating on social media in different languages. And there is also terminology work that can be super interesting. And yeah, so, and also in social services, like my sister worked as an interpreter for social services in London because they need to provide a service to people of different nationalities. So it can be very interesting. And don't forget about government or international institutions jobs that can be very interesting.
Wow, okay, so many opportunities. Thank you, both of you. So we have heard, just to sum this up a little bit, we have heard translation, but also as an interpreter, not just as a translator, both of them. But then also social media related, teaching, we had heard. What else? Just to sum this up a little bit for those who just have arrived.
Yeah, so,
Internet,
well,
yeah, please.
may I, the three typical professions that one thinks about when it comes to speaking other languages are teaching, as Elisa said, and translating and interpreting, also communication, right, customer service, diplomacy even, right, governmental stuff, and so on. But if you like to, the good thing I think is that if you want to start your own business to help other people learn a language, if this is your passion, that's great. But you can also do this without actually starting your own business, which is what I'm doing. I've been doing now for the last 2 years. You can offer your services, offer your knowledge and what you can do to already existing businesses. So what I've been doing, for example, in the last couple of years has been a collaboration with several online schools, doing some, student support, that is answering questions about many different languages. That's a dream for a polyglot, right? For a polyglot and a teacher, obviously. But also creating materials for their schools, for their courses, to build lessons upon, or even, which I found extremely rewarding, providing ideas to improve their courses, and even how to create new courses, new ideas about different types of courses. And this was extremely rewarding, and there are other advantages to that. I have, for example, flexibility, which is an asset that I think is invaluable. Managing your own time, especially in my situation with a family with 2 kids and so many family commitments. It's been really refreshing to be able to manage my own time and spend the right time with family, and also not having to worry about all the responsibilities that a business owner has. Let's face it, that's also pretty important for people in my same situation. That is, when sometimes it's not the right time to do a certain thing, and it's great when you can find a solution to that is at the same time rewarding and doable. So that's what I've been doing mostly.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing all that, and also the personal side. I think this is going to help a lot of people watching here. I have 2 questions. One is a bit more related to requirements, and the other one to the language level. Let's start with the requirements. And I've also seen Rose wrote something here. Can I ask something about interpretation? Sure, go ahead. Feel free to write your questions here in the comments. Meanwhile, the question that I have is for the different degrees, and let's maybe focus on those that you're currently doing, because this is what you know best. What does one need in terms of I don't know, degrees, for example, for translation or interpretation? Is it necessary to have a degree in that? Stefano, you said that you had studied that because you knew that since you were 16, but is that necessary?
As far as translation is concerned, well, it's necessary. It's not a requirement, an official requirement. In some industries, there may be entry requirements. You have to have a degree to be able to even apply for a job. This is not the case for translation, actually. So in my 20-year career, nobody has actually ever asked me to show my degree in translation. So you could even say that I needn't have done the whole thing. But my point of view is actually a bit different. So I ask myself rather, would I have been able to work so well as a translator and to retain my customers through quality, through high quality, for so many years working with Italian publishing houses, etc. Had I not done my degree, I have learned so much. I learned so much in those 4 years. I think it's key because it's more important knowing how to do something than the actual piece of paper. But it doesn't seem to be a requirement people really care about.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that. How is that for teaching?
So in my case, I also have a master degree in teaching. So, and it helped me a lot, at least to be paid more. Because when you start and you have no experience, you have no certificate, then of course they'll try to pay you less, which is also understandable. But at the same time, once you have experience and a degree, there is a minimum under which they would probably not go. So it also depends. And maybe, and apart from the money, I learned a lot. So when I did my master degree, I'd already been teaching for more than 10 years. And but at the same time, I still learned a lot, because if you attend a quality course, so a course that is really worth it, then, and I attended CELTA, and I attended a real master degree from the university. Yeah, I learned so much, and I'm very, very glad I did. So I added something important to what I could already do. So I think it's important. I don't think that it's the only way, really. If you're passionate about languages, you have studied other languages, you already start understanding how to learn and how to teach languages. But then, yeah, so if it's really what you want to do for your life, as a job, then you can specialize and learn more and more, so be the best teacher ever.
Wow, okay, thank you. Rose confirms that too, what you said about the title, even though you never had to really show it, but she says here in the comments, so she has a translation, she owns a translation company, and she filters the translators by testing their skills for specific jobs. And sorry, but I always did ask for translators that had some formal training. So apparently also for some, I guess, agencies or translation companies, it is important that the formal training is there. Okay, so my next question would be a little bit more than related to the language level. I mean, especially if you have a formal training, I guess people are also going to tell you if you don't have the level that you need for the training. But what would you recommend someone? Because polyglots, they often have levels, high levels, but I mean, this is the question also between learning many languages and learning a couple of languages, but on a very high level. So what is the level for the jobs that you just mentioned required? When we call those levels B1, B2, and I know there is never the perfect answer to those questions, but maybe you could just share us a little bit your experience as well with the languages that you have used for your jobs. Does one need a C1 or C2? Like, could you give us some examples here?
Yeah. Can I start? Yes.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So I would say that to work in a company, it's not necessarily what they will ask you for, but how you feel how you will feel if your level is not high enough. So I think that the most companies would hire you if you have a B2 certificate or a B2 level. But you know, the difference between having a certificate and being able to speak at that level. I mean, if you got it some years ago, maybe you don't have the same level anymore. So the important part, I think that you can also learn a lot during, so while you're really doing your job, especially if it's not teaching. I mean, while teaching, you should already know the language, but I'm talking about logistics or any job that you can do in a company. A company is more more interested, not necessarily in your language skills, but in the job you can do. Let's say that, for example, customer support. You have to be nice, you have to be attentive, you have to understand what the customer wants, and the customer doesn't care if you made some mistakes while answering. They want a result. So as long as you can provide them with a result, you don't have to be C2 level to work in the customer service, but you do need to have other soft skills that are very important. So, and you can build it up, because there will always be words that you don't know that are related to the job you're going to do. So, and that you will only learn it while doing it. So don't be scared about that. And in general, I think that it's much better to know fewer languages at a higher level. But if you are really passionate about languages, you want to study more languages, like I did. So I really love working with 13 languages in my case. And I do want to work with those languages, but I know that quality is more important than quantity. But as Stefano said before, it's more what you can do with those languages. For example, also in the case of teaching, you don't have to have a C2 level to teach A1 level, but of course you have to know how to teach, and you have to know it very well, and you have to make sure that you don't teach anything that is wrong to your student. Okay, so of course, so the very important part is how, because when you teach, it's not you who will be talking most of the time. Students have to speak, otherwise how can they learn to speak in that language? Anyway, the main point here is that quality is very important, but you don't have to wait to have a C2 degree certificate before you start. You can also learn on the job. And the second thing is that having learned many languages, I can say that it really opens you many doors, as long as you can work with those languages. So knowing 20 languages at A1 level will not help you, because you cannot work at all using those languages. So it's important to know, to reach at least B1 to B2, and then you choose how many languages you want to learn. But the more languages you know, the more language combinations you can offer, and the more doors will be open to you according to the job you want to do. For example, if you want to travel from country to country and work in different countries, it's very important you know several languages, so that the doors will not be shut when you arrive to a country if you don't speak the language. But at the same time, again, quality is more important than quantity.
Very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that experience. Stefano, would you agree, or anything you do not agree on?
Sure, I agree, and I can add my 2 cents about translation specifically. Something that many people do not know is actually that what is requested of a translator, of a good translator, is not how well they can speak the foreign language, but it's their knowledge and ability to use their own native language. That's even more important. So when you are a translator, you're going to be evaluated not on how good your English or your German or whatever other language is. In my case, as an Italian person, you will be evaluated on how well you can actually write in Italian, because remember, the best translation is a text that you cannot see it's a translation. So it has to be it has to be hidden. And if it's obvious that it's a translation, you probably didn't do enough of a good job. So really, your native language is more important if you decide to go for translation and even interpretation as well, in most cases. As far as tutoring is concerned, I think if you are teaching at higher levels, like at people at B2 level, you really need to have an extremely good level of your foreign language. I would say you need to be at C to be able to teach at B. Just like Elisa said, you need a B to teach at A, which makes sense, right? Because the students' questions can be really challenging sometimes. You get things that you didn't even think were possible. But I would say knowing a rare language very well is an enormous plus. even in online tutoring. You can get into platforms such as italki, we know very well, much more easily if you know a rare language very, very well, and it's niche, and you can get more easily to teach the language you like. And something that I'd like to add is when you teach a language online, you actually realize two very different things at the same time. You realize how well you know the language, because you can answer most questions, even the craziest ones. But at the same time, you also notice, you realize how much there is still to look up and to make sure you're giving the right answer about, because some of the questions are so crazy that you encounter new things every day. So it's a constant learning experience. Even teaching is a constant learning experience, and that's something really important about this industry, I think.
I love your advice and also the part that when you share your experience, thank you so much for doing that. I just wanted to mention Ron also wrote a comment here, and he says also, well, basically the comments agree on what you were saying, both of you. Ron just also mentioned that getting a mentor or also to do some volunteer work can also help to actually get into the job and to start learning it and to, practice that as well, right? So I have a question now that is maybe we can just focus on two different parts. I guess Stefano is going to focus on translation. I don't know, Elisa, if you want to focus on teaching, but let's say we focus on each of you one job, and there's people who have no experience at all, no matter the age, but how and where should they get started? That would be my question. So we try to do what a mentor charges you for hours. We try to do that now in a minute. No, but I mean, as a first advice, let's say, what would you say, Elisa? I don't know if you want to focus on the teaching part, maybe?
Yeah, so I thought about focusing on the teaching part, but from a business owner point of view. So because teaching, so I would say that the most important part is that when your dream is to have your own business, my suggestion is not to quit your job if you already have one, because you will have less time to dedicate to your project and passion, but at the same time you will have the money to finance it. And many people say, no, I'm fed up with my job, I want to start my project. But starting a project such as opening a company is such a long process, and it takes so much time and so many resources, not necessarily financial resources, but so many things, and you have to learn so many things, that it's much better to do it little by little. I mean, unless you already have all the money you need for it, you can already start. But at the same time, what I mean is that you don't have to neither to give up your dream, nor you have to start something super risky from the very beginning. My suggestion is to go slowly, also because being a business owner doesn't mean that you it means that you are your own boss, but usually in the first years you work more than normal people. You earn probably at the beginning less than normal people, because you have to invest the money you're earning, and at the same time you have to learn about so many other things like taxes, IT, editing, so many other things, marketing, it's too much to know in advance without doing it, whether you will really like it or not, or whether you prefer a solution like Stefano, that he likes creating material, but he prefers to have a boss. At least he is more flexible, because he works. He's a freelancer, but at the same time he can. At the same time, he doesn't have to worry about boring stuff like taxes or meetings. Also, many other things that you have to learn anyway. So start slowly. Make sure that you like every part of it, And if you don't like it, make sure you have the money to hire people to do the job you don't want to do.
Wow, thank you so much for all of that, Elisa. I think that was very, very helpful for many people watching this panel discussion. Thank you. Stefano, how is that for translations? What would you recommend? No experience and no matter the age, how should one get started?
If I were to start again from scratch, I would just, it's very simple, guys. Just look for a good translation and interpretation school where you can get your degree. And my biggest tip here is make sure that this school or university hires actual translators and interpreters to teach what they're teaching, because for an industry such as translation and interpretation, experience is much more important than theory. I'm sorry, that's just what it is. So if you're being taught by someone who has done it for 30 years, you're sure to get the best tips and you're sure to get the best techniques. Let's face it, it's a technique kind of thing. You learn techniques that help you get the message over in the best possible way, both in translation and interpretation. So make sure that the teachers there are actual interpreters and translators helping. This is so important. For the other things, if I can add a couple of things, like for tutoring, just go out there and register on a platform like italki and start. You can start pretty easily to teach your language. And for the rest, if I may add, connections are key. So I can tell you pretty bluntly that maybe 90% or maybe even 100% of the jobs that I've gotten in my whole life have come through word of mouth. So it's a friend of an acquaintance of an acquaintance of a friend, of a cousin maybe, who discovers that, finds out that someone needs someone like you, and then you have to talk. So that's my best tip. Just go out there, make connections, show what you can do, and someone will find you if you are good at what you do.
Wow, thank you. We have one question here. Is there training for tutoring? Anything like if there's someone who has no experience in tutoring, is there any like training?
Yeah, sure. There are many. You can choose. You can choose, and now there are many people offering that. For example, I also offer that. I train people who want to become teachers, but I know about many other polyglots, not many, but other polyglots who teach languages and do the same. So look for whoever looks the best to you, or for whoever inspires you the most.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, my very, very last question is just you as polyglots, when you focus, I think Elisa mentioned that as well, there is a lot of other things involved as well, especially when you start your own business, translation business or teaching business or whatever. But my question here is, you as polyglots who love to learn languages and who really also enjoy the process of learning a language, how does your job, when you start making a living through language, how does that affect your language learning process in a positive or in a negative way, or both maybe? I don't know. Does it encourage you, or?
I'll go first this time. Okay. I've heard some people having the opposite experience of what I've had so far, but in my case, very, very positively. And in terms of language maintenance, it's like it's on automatic. In terms of automatic language maintenance, it's worked wonders. Every time I have a conversation in Finnish, a 1 hour conversation in Finnish with a student, it's also 1 hour of conversation in Finnish for me, isn't it? So I get to practically maintain my languages daily, on a daily basis, because there's something that I have to do that I like doing, yeah, but sometimes you also don't like. Come on, not every day you like, you love absolutely what you do. but you're still getting the practice. So that's extremely positive. It has been extremely positive for me, at least so far.
Yeah, also in my case, I'm super happy I'm so grateful of working with languages, and if it affects me, it affects me in a very positive way, because I feel very grateful and happy to work with languages and so have to do anything language related. And in a way, it inspires me even more, because I get to talk to people from other countries. And despite the fact that, of course, during the lesson, I focus on the language they want to learn, at the same time, when you meet a nice person, you think, it would be so nice to be able to speak that language too. So it inspires you to learn more. So I've heard of many cases of people who have got into the language business and then started to stopped learning languages because they got much more focused on the business part. Of course, the business part is important, that you have to focus on that if you want to make a living out of it. But at the same time, that's never stopped for me. So I'm constantly learning or improving my languages. So at the very moment, I'm doing a B2 course in Greek, and I'm in a C1 course for Portuguese. So I'm super happy about that, and I keep studying on my own. And I come home like midnight, and a bit of language learning is okay. So before I think it's time to go to bed. Yeah, I like it. I don't do it I don't study for hours on end, because we all have a busy life. But still, if it's your true passion, it will not stop when you start working with it. Actually, quite the opposite. Like Stefano said, it's also nice if you work, for example, in a company, you can use your languages. Even better, you learn even more words, because you need to know the small components of a product, for example, or you improve your copywriting skills. So it's fantastic.
Wow. Okay. So basically, to sum it all up, you get paid, basically the two of you get paid to maintain your languages, to practice your languages. But let's face that as well. I think Stefano mentioned that also, not every day is sunshine, right? But in general, it's quite nice to get paid for that. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, both of you, so much for all your advice, for sharing your personal experience as well. I think that was very, very useful for so many people. And I wish you all the best, and looking forward to hopefully seeing you very soon in person again.
Thank you so much for
having me. Thank you so much. Thank you, Anya. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, everyone, for watching this and being there. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Bye, guys.